Kick into Instagram Reels, and this is what came up. Finding the best ones. Here we've got a right high kick. Orthodox versus Orthodox fighter and a face plant KO. Let's break this down as we see the slow-mo. So the fighter in the black shorts opens up with a lead right hand. A very risky maneuver in boxing, even riskier in Muay Thai. We can see here he's reached his left hand out to telegraph this backhand, and because he's really extended his stance here, he's going to have to lean. He's going to lean over this shoulder. And then what that's going to do is the shoulder is going to lower and give leeway for this right foot to come and meet the jaw. It's a very dangerous impact because as he's leaning into it, he's going to double the impact of the right kick. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm former, painful to say that, Cage Warriors lightweight champion, 13-3 professional MMA fighter, George Hardwick. Anyway, he's leaning in, and then as this right kick comes up, boom, comes over the shoulder. Because that shoulder's dipped down, he's leaning with that right hand. It's not protecting him anymore, and he's dropped this left hand really low. Plus, another little detail for this guy, the winner, the knockout artist, to get his right shin over that shoulder, he's actually jumped off the floor. He's jumped off the floor. He's made that extra clearance to get over the shoulder and add extra damage. Kind of Superbon versus Giorgio Petrosian style. He jumps into the air, puts that shin across the jawbone, knocks his opponent out. Always risky, those faceplant KOs, but you never want to lunge across the ropes, lunge across the ring, throwing a naked right hand, because you can get countered with the opponent's right hand, or even worse, you can get countered with the opponent's right kick. Opponent's very happy. Here, we see the exact same thing. Orthodox situation. We'll see this here. He folds up, as the caption says, in quite an interesting way. So the guy throws a jab. The guy comes back in with a lunging right hand, leans over his lead knee, and into the path, boom, of that right shin. Same situation here. We'll put that here. So, jab, the opponent tries to answer with a right hand, and he gets flatlined. And another thing about this is because I've got head guards on, it's going to be so much harder for him to see that shin coming over his shoulder. Head guards give you a blind spot. Boom, there. See how far he's left his leg behind? That's going to cause him to dip off towards that kick. The left hand drops as well. He's way over his knee, and he's doubling the impact of that right high kick. And because the head guard's on, his peripheral vision is probably limited. So you'd have no idea that that shin was coming up to meet him until it met him. So head guards, obviously, they can protect against impact, but they often cut off your peripheral vision. I find if I spar on a head guard, I'm going to take more hits, and one of the most unnecessary counts in history there from our referee. Here he swings a kick, ends up in open stance, and gets countered with that left kick to the head. There's a few things about it. Always when I'm teaching classes, I say if you kick and you spin, you can spin on a kick when you're shadow boxing, but just get back to your stance quick. Imagine an opponent's going to crack you. Boom. He's spinning around very lazily, waiting for the return, kind of unaware, taking his time, and he gets cracked there with a left high kick. Open stance, so it doesn't have to come over that shoulder, and there's no hands to come over because his hands are down by his waist. Something very interesting, and this is a very interesting dynamic in terms of boxing ring versus cage. Look at the back foot of the knockout man. Boom. So obviously, again, we've got to jump into the air. Helps cover a bit of distance, helps get a bit more power onto it. Very much Superbon versus Giorgio Petrosian, but it's the opposite stance. Obviously, he's throwing his left kick there. But let's see if we can freeze frame this on his back step. So he's going to throw his right kick in the blue shorts, steps back, and look where his back foot ends up. His left foot ends up below and underneath the rope. So he's still got his stance, and he can still spring forward into this left kick because he can put his foot underneath the ropes. If this was a cage, like sometimes we see kickboxing in a cage, like in one championship, he would be in a completely flattened stance, and he wouldn't be able to generate the drive and the power off of that left kick. And because the guy's taking forever to get back into his stance, boom, he gets flatlined with that left shin to the head. Boom, left foot goes underneath the ropes, actually bounces a little bit off the ropes, does his back calf, that left calf, and then he throws in. Again, another situation here, someone throwing a right hand and eating a right high kick whilst dropping the left hand. Granted, he didn't lunge into it, he just kind of threw it naked, and his shoulders were really low. So Really, obviously, the last line of protection is the top of your head, but the shoulders protect you against high kicks and right hands as much as the hand does, but both of them drop really low. The shoulder here drops low. The hand is going to drop low, and that makes a really good path for this right shin to come up over the top. And because he's throwing his own right hand here off of this side, doesn't matter that they've got these sock shin guards on that don't really do much. He's turning his chin into the impact, creates a collision, and he gets knocked out. Ignore my CTE squiggles, but boom, there. You never want to be dropping that left hand, swinging a naked right hand. This is a very common theme. Again, it happens, a very common theme of these knockouts. People throwing naked right hands from very far out because there's no jab hook, there's no double action, there's no feint, there's no way they're bringing the back foot in. They're ending up having to lean over, and they're getting caught with these high kicks. When they're getting caught with these high kicks, they're covering too much distance with the right hand. That's causing them to lean down towards their left and into the path of these high kicks. Make sense of those arrows if you can. So, no distance covering. Again, I get the feeling a lot of these people have been doing it time and time again in the fight because they're getting timed each time with these right high kicks. Very dangerous exchange. We see it in boxing. One of the most dangerous times to get hit with the right hand is when you're throwing your own. It's so much more dangerous to get hit with a high kick while throwing your own right hand, especially when you're lunging across. Let's break down the stance. Let's break down what happens here. Very dangerous. Look, back leg completely straight. When that back leg straightens out completely, it's got no more base, no more strength. We're relying completely on the lead leg, and we're going to have to lean to keep our balance. And this is no good. If someone's throwing a high kick at the same time, that's going to be a horrendous impact, and that's why we're seeing all these face-planting KOs on this compilation. Boom, drop, face first, a lot of damage, bang. You don't want to be throwing these right hands from 3 miles away. It's very, very tricky, especially with no actions off the lead hand. If you're already in close, you can throw that right hand, Masaki Noiri style, and ping someone straight from there. Here, we're changing tune a little bit. This is highly illegal. Even under the new rules in MMA, the right hand drops him, that left knee's on the floor, so he's grounded, and then he gets soccer kicked. The guy raises his hand. A lot of people be like, how can you celebrate that much off of a disqualification win? This guy's gotten his brain kicked into orbit like Adriano's just kicked a football in Pro Evolution Soccer 6. You've got to be aware. This guy's probably not aware of where he's at, but it's a really nice right hand. And actually, because of the theme of the video, these people have been throwing naked right hands and getting dropped. This guy who gets the knockout with the right hand, he actually sets it up a bit with the jab, so he can cover his distance a little bit. He still dips his head off, so if he threw a right high kick at that same time, would be risky. But because it was that little bit of smoke screen with the jab, he's probably not as likely to get caught. Boom. And then there's that big soccer kick as the guy lands down on his knee. Kind of brings him back up to the feet. See, he switches southpaw, so there's extra power onto it. Really devastating. This guy's probably not going to be aware of what happens. Here we're seeing a slightly different situation. We see an open stance. High kick here, right high kick. I don't know if this actually drops the guy. The clip's very short. But this is a mistake I often see in the gym, and I often always pick up on it, is when you check, keep your hands in the same place. There's a natural tendency for, as you're bringing the leg up, to check, the hands come down. That's exactly what happens here. You just want to keep your hands in the same position. The leg does the work on checking, whether it's a body kick or a leg kick, and your hands want to stay in the same position, but to keep your balance, it's just a natural inclination to bring your hands down. That's what happens here. He thinks it's a low or a body kick, and the right shin comes up over those hands and catches him right in the jaw. I'm not sure if this was a knockout, but it was a really good shot. He'd probably been establishing that inside low kick or right body kick through the fight and then brought it up. Boom, again, the same example. Someone swings a right hand from very far out. He's going to load up his right hand. He's taking a big step here, so it's already telegraphing. This big footstep's already a telegraph, and he's going to drop his left shoulder, his left hand down to try and add power and cover distance, because he's not covered distance appropriately with the jab. He's going to lunge into this right hand, and it's not going to end well for him. Boom. There, the high kick there. Devastating impact. He does the stanky leg. Very tricky situation there. Just the main theme of this video is if you're going to throw your right hand, cover the distance with a jab or a fake, something like that. Set a little smoke screen. Boom. He's loading it up. There. Not even like a full turn and opening up. He kind of keeps his hips and his shoulders square, but he doesn't even need that full turn for the power. All the power is being provided by one, these being big boys, big legs, that's going to do damage, and this guy throwing his chin into the shot, dropping this hand down here. Same thing again and again. This next one's slightly different. We see a fake of the knee. The guy looks to counter with a right hand, and he pretty much has his hand almost in the right position. This is something strange about fighting, is that the magnitude of the mistake or the magnitude of the error doesn't always translate to the magnitude of the punishment. Here, he had his hand and his forearm pretty much in the right position, but that shin can still meet across, especially because he sees him dropping this foot. He doesn't expect the kick coming back, so he's got his leg up. He's going to lunge down into this right hand to try and do a damaging right hook, Rob Kamen style. But as he dips, he still keeps this hand up, but the shin and this tibial tuberosity, the hard part towards the top of the shin, bottom of the knee, is still going to penetrate through the guard. The knee goes past the target. When the knee goes past the target, it can even drag through a block, especially a single arm block, because the other arm is occupied with throwing his right hook, and boom, he eats that shin across the chin. He had his hand in the right position. People always say keep your hands up. He had his hand up at the temple, but it was just slightly further back, and he eats that shin to the chin, and damage is done. This one, slightly different setup. We're seeing an open stance, orthodox versus southpaw. Orthodox fighter here, probably being establishing kicks to the leg, kicks to the body to get this man reaching his hands down. And then, because he's not lunging into it like how people have been throwing the right hand and lunging themselves down. He's going to bring this kick up and down, the classic rainbow style question mark kick that we've seen many great fighters do. Boom. And because the guy's leaning over himself, even if it's not the most concussive blow, I want to know how this fight went after this, even though it's not the most concussive blow, because he's leaning back over himself as he takes the impact. His weight's kind of sent this way. The shin's going to drag through and knock him off his feet, even if he's not fully concussed. I would imagine he is, but it's going to limbo him over his back leg and do some damage. Boom. Drop there. Not many high kicks left to watch. Here, boom, right high kick into right elbow, left hook, and that scoops him into another right high kick as he bounces off the ropes. This combination is pure Mortal Kombat. So this right high kick, boom, just a naked right high kick. The guy actually has his hands fairly in good position, but he changes the angle of his kick to come round and almost, it's like foot on the back of the head here because he arches over. And as well, generally, you want to turn towards the kick. If you're arm blocking, you always want to turn towards the kick. This guy, he turns away. Yushin Okami versus Anderson Silva style, and that exposes the back of the head, which can do more damage and can disorientate you quite a lot. He gets hit with this right high kick. He's going to keep his leg up and cover distance, stepping into a right elbow. Boom, he can do that because his right foot was up. He can cover more distance with the step. Kind of a big kebab shop left hook. And boom, right high kick as he bounces off the rope. Incredible damage, incredible power, full-on Mortal Kombat combination. I've been George Hardwick. If you want to support, look at the Patreon, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let me know what kind of breakdowns you want. I'm going to be posting a lot more longer form breakdowns whilst I've got a bit of a break from competition. My nose, my shins, a lot of stuff needs to recover, plus I'm following concussion protocols. I wasn't knocked out, but after a fight like that, you've got to. Let me know what fighters you're interested in listening to breakdowns of, what techniques you want to see. Patreon, and follow on various platforms. Maybe the CTE's hit me. Follow me on the platforms.